According to the Ministry of Balance article for the most recent update in May 2024, USS Montana is in the unfortunate position of being the lowest performing legendary tier battleship. To combat this and update her to more recent legendary tier standards, we're improving both her survivability and firepower. This should make Montana a well rounded battleship with decent weaponry and high survivability. The main battery shell grouping was increased by 2.5%. In other words, the sigma was changed from 1.85 to 1.9, so these guns should be slightly more accurate. The main battery AP damage was increased from 13,100 to 13,500, so they hit a little bit harder. And then the overall HP was increased to 96.3k, and the HP distribution among the bow, casemate, stern, and superstructure, all of those numbers were changed. They were all reduced, which means that the extremities of the ship saturate faster, and therefore it takes less damage from repeated salvos, so you start to get diminishing returns. The question, I suppose, is did this buff make any kind of difference? And I guess this is kind of a hard question to analyze because, of course, we don't have access to the Montana pre-buff. But as far as accuracy and hitting power, well, that initial salvo there against the GK was pretty good. And then all the return fire we take from different various parts of the map really didn't do all that much damage. I mean, to be fair, it did take more than 20k from us, but it doesn't feel all that bad, and we are able to heal a good deal of that because we were not citadeled. But in any case, this is kind of a hard question to analyze because we don't have access to the Montana prior to the buff. So it's not like I can take out pre-buff Montana and see does it take more damage than post-buff Montana. But just going off my own subjective feelings alone, because I had played the Montana fairly extensively prior to the buff, it certainly does seem a lot more tanky now, and I think this match is actually a fairly good demonstration of that. There's something else that I noticed too about the Montana that I'll bring up a little bit later because there is a sequence in this battle that demonstrates it pretty much perfectly. In any case, we've spawned over here on the Charlie flank, and we're trying to play the Charlie cap. We've got a GK pushing in, we've got a Shimakaze, one of whose torpedoes we just ate in our bow. Our own Shimakaze, or actually that was a Sumner, sorry. Our own Sumner has just been sunk in the Charlie cap, and so we've lost 1 DD out of 4, but we do still have 1 DD off to the right of the screen unseen, headed toward the location of the Shimakaze, or at least he was until he smoked up and opened fire on the GK. GK is, of course, pushing in. We are not going to push into him because A, the Shimakaze is still lurking out there somewhere, and pushing into that direction probably means we're going to eat torpedoes. B, we don't really want to be taking a bunch of secondary hits from the GK either, for that matter. And in any case, a ship pushing in is always at a disadvantage compared to the ship kiting away from it. There's not really any reason for us to push in either. It's just the GK and Shima there. And our team, for their part, have conquered both Alpha and Bravo, and they appear to be holding both caps, at least for the moment. The point situation was even for a second, but now the blue team is starting to overtake the red team because the reds have no income for points. The only points they've gotten came from the sinking of the friendly Sumner in the beginning. The Charlie cap is now saturated with blue torpedoes, courtesy of both the Sumner and the Minotaur, which apparently is a radar Minotaur. Or maybe that's a Brisbane. Yeah, it's a Brisbane. It's firing HE. In any case, the Brisbane's radar reveals both the GK and the Shimakaze. We don't have shots on the Shimakaze, so we're going to have to settle for the GK, who looks like he's about to eat a couple more torpedoes from that second set, maybe at least one. He's slightly angled to us, so we don't expect to get great results from this salvo. GK, like Montana, also received a buff, a similar buff where the HP was overall increased and then the HP in the extremities was redistributed. allowing the GK to become saturated more quickly and therefore take less damage in the extremities from repeated shots. And maybe we saw a little bit of that there with about 7K in the GK's superstructure, which I'm sure is saturated. Here, we are broadside to this GK salvo. It hits us, but it doesn't actually citadel us. And of course, both the superstructure and casemate HP redistribution means that I think when that particular salvo connected, it probably did a little bit less damage than it would have prior to the buff. So that may be helping us out there. Shimakaze is still alive, but he's been captured, or spotted rather, by the friendly destroyer. And it looks like he's going to be sunk one way or the other. He is trying to smoke up, but it is all going to be in vain. He's crossfired from multiple sides by the destroyer and the cruiser. And once he's down, we should be able to secure the Charlie Cap and then move toward Bravo. In fact, I don't really think I can be of too much help in sinking the Shimakaze. Both Sumner and Brisbane should be good on that. So we're going to start moving toward Bravo ourselves in order to affect the outcome of the battle there. We spot the enemy Brisbane. He's kind of angled toward us bow in, and the first couple shells ricochet off of his probably side armor, while two of them do get overpens and full penetrations. We're up to 73,000 damage right now, which is just okay. Now that there's 8 minutes left in the battle, nothing too spectacular, certainly not blowing any records out of the water. We could get a little bit more damage. There's Shimakaze again, revealed by Brisbane's radar. He should have almost no HP left, and we probably don't even need to shoot at him, but we're going to do it anyway. Actually, I think we do need to shoot at him. Both Brisbane and Sumner are behind the island, and they don't have access. And this just goes to show you that you should always take shots at destroyers, even if they are 16 kilometers away. In that case, the Shimakaze barely had any HP, so 1 or 2 shells would have been enough to do it, and that's exactly what we got. He goes down, the Charlie Cap is secure. The battleship, I think it was Italian, it was either Giuseppe or Marco. He's pushing toward Charlie, and he's going to be pushing right into the torpedoes of Brisbane and the 2 friendly destroyers. Enemy destroyer spotted in the Bravo Cap. He's being torpedoed by our friendly destroyer, which is probably a Shimakaze, judging by the 5 torpedoes he sent that way. Could be something else, but I don't think those torpedoes are going to hit. In any case, the blue team is ahead on points and ahead on ships. Well, we were until the sinking of that ship. Okay, now we're ahead on ships again, but only by 1. It's a gearing in the Bravo Cap. Hopefully we're going to get past this island and get shots on him. We're not turning into the Bravo Cap because we want all guns on target. Initial salvo from the front 2 turrets misses the gearing, probably due to our own poor aim. Can we get the rear turrets on target and take him out? Hopefully. Looks like that salvo is good, and he is going to go down. Improved Sigma, perhaps helping us out there. There's our second kill of the game. We're up to 80,000 damage now. Colombo is left, along with Giuseppe Verdi, the only 2 red battleships left. Actually, there is a third, but he was last spotted somewhere to the west of Alpha, so he's far out of position as far as we can tell, and it's probably going to take a while for him to return to the fray. The Giuseppe Verdi, meanwhile, has posted up by that island. He's bow in to the Brisbane and the destroyer that's in front of him, which of course is a common tactic that battleships like to use, this bow tanking reversing thing. It can be a real problem though, because it compromises your maneuverability and makes it so that you're moving in a straight line, in this case backwards. If that Giuseppe Verdi continues to move backwards just a couple meters further, he's going to expose the side of his ship around the corner of that island, where we are going to be able to capitalize on that with at least the front 2 guns and hopefully take him out. There he is. We do have access to that broadside, hopefully the Citadel as well. Front 2 guns are out. And that's enough to take down the Giuseppe Verdi for our 3rd kill of the game. We're almost up to 100,000 damage done. We took it nice and slow approaching that Giuseppe because we do know Colombo is somewhere in the Bravo Cap, and we didn't want to come around this corner and expose broadside to that battleship. It would probably wreck us. But the Colombo is, of course, in the cap. The cap is contested, and we have the friendly DD inside of it for the moment. We're far ahead on points thanks to all the ships we've sunk, but it's only 5v3, and this game could still go either way. Colombo is at mostly full HP, and we don't actually have the ability to lob these shells over that island and remove any further HP. They all get caught on the island and disappear. So what do? Well, we're going to push into the Bravo cap. There is still one battleship left, which is actually a USS Montana that has probably a little bit more HP than we do, or maybe about the same. He fires HE at us initially, which I thought, maybe that's an indication that he's just going to be spamming HE the entire time. Not quite true, but we do want to maneuver to the right a little bit. Colombo was spotted going toward the left of the screen around the island, and of course Montana is coming this way. If we turn right, it means we're essentially following Colombo, hopefully, so we won't meet him, and in that way we can keep the island between us and hopefully continue to fight this Montana, who does look like he's threatening to turn broadside. He sends some AP our way. We hit him in return for not great damage, but he does chunk us a little bit. We're going to head toward this island and actually beach ourselves on it to momentarily go dark. The idea here was to hit the island, immediately go in reverse while turning the ship to the left, so that hopefully we could angle against the Montana and continue firing at him. Looks like Colombo is going forward, and somebody has taken out the final destroyer in this cap. I must have missed that. It probably was the Colombo. A little bit unfortunate, but it doesn't matter. We are still ahead on points. But here, this is the thing I've noticed. Take a look. We are broadside to this Montana, so really we probably should be dead. He sends a salvo right into our broadside, but it does not actually citadel us. It does a respectable chunk of damage. That was somewhere in the vicinity of 15 or 16k, I think. But it wasn't a citadel. And one thing I noticed when I looked at the Montana's armor scheme was that the citadel on this ship is right at the waterline. If you aim slightly above it, or your shells go slightly above it, they'll probably penetrate the casemate armor, and do reduce damage, by the way, because the casemate HP was lowered. But if they don't hit the citadel, well, it's not catastrophic. So we managed to get away with that one, even though I don't think we should. I suppose when you're shooting at the Montana, you should be sure to specifically aim for the waterline, because you absolutely can hit this citadel. It's not like it's buried completely underwater. It is right at the waterline, but I've noticed consistently that even if I'm broadside, I'm not always taking citadels in Montana. And I think this is probably because people are simply aiming too high and the shells are just going above the citadel. In any case, we'll see the opposite happen here against the enemy Montana. We're doing a good job of staying behind this island and keeping it between ourselves and the Colombo. If the Colombo had simply waited in his position and we had continued to go forward, we eventually would have met him. But we're basically playing ring around the rosy around this island with him, and he's never going to catch us as long as we continue to go in this direction and he continues to go in the opposite, which means it's just a 1v1 with me and this Montana. And there, we get a citadel on him, so obviously it can be done. He's still got a lot more HP than we do, though. We're only at 15k, but keep in mind that reduction in HP to the superstructure and the bow and such, that is going to help us out a lot here. By this time, you can see the entirety of our ship, at least in the midsection, has gotten darker or blackened. That means it is saturated. That's a visual cue to tell you that that part of the ship is saturated. So if the Montana hits it, well, he's not going to do that much damage. And of course, if he aims too low and hits our angled bow, all of his shells are simply going to bounce and do exactly 0 damage. Now, he has found himself in a similar situation to what we were in a second ago, where he's beached himself against the island and he's fairly broadside to us. He's going to have to reverse, and I think in reversing, he's going to open up the angle just a little bit more. In any case, we get the high caliber metal with that shot there. It's not enough to take out the Montana, but the friendly destroyer has got that covered. That just leaves Colombo and the as of yet unseen enemy destroyer left. Looks like that enemy destroyer is in Charlie, but it's far too little too late. We're too far ahead on points against the enemy team, they would have to sink all of us in order to win this game. And Colombo is trying. He is reversing around this island, so we are coming to a stop so we don't get around it. One shot from Colombo would be enough to take us out. We've only got 7.1k HP left. Maybe we can lob these shells over the island? No, not quite, but that is okay. We want to play it safe, not fast and loose like that destroyer. We want to play it safe and secure the win, which we do. And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that this win probably would not have been possible prior to the buff, because I think I would have been sunk at some point. Not a huge high damage game for me, but certainly a game that I think demonstrates the very good tankiness of the Montana. The ship is, in fact, very tanky now, and I think it is quite comfortable to play. In fact, I recommend it. It's a good ship. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.